Hi there, as promised, a bit of a follow-up with this XL table saw. Just going to do a quick cut. I've been messing around with it yesterday, getting it set up. You can see from the red blade, I've replaced the blade with a through blade, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. So I haven't got the blade guard on, just so you can see exactly what's happening. And the blade guard has got a dust extraction port on it, and the machine's got a dust extraction on the back, and if you want to use the both, you'd have to knock up some sort of T-piece. Anyway, it's hooked up to the trusty old Henry Hoover, and I will have that on when we cut. Hang about after the cutting bit, because I'm going to talk about a couple of little quick and dirty mods I've had to do to slightly improve the machine. Some stuff I discovered when I was changing the blade. So anyhow, it's going to be a bit noisy. As explained, the machine is pretty loud. We'll set it up, you can see, not a professional setup, but we'll cut this piece of wood and then we'll have a bit of a chat about the blade. Okie dokie, excuse the noise. I've got a separate mic on it, so the mic isn't right next to the blade, but we'll have a go. So this is a bit of a, I've already had a go at it, 3x2, so we're going to cut across the 2-inch way. Okie dokie, here we go. So that was with no dust extraction. You could see a little bit of the dust coming off the top there. So we're going to narrow it down a little bit. Should be able to get another cut out of that. We'll put the Henry on, and we'll give another cut through this. Right, there we are. So the first cut with dust extraction, the second cut with dust extraction, the first cut without. I'm just going to unhook the phone off the tripod so we can actually see the screen. Okay then, let's unplug the machine because we're going to be messing about with it. Right then, okay, so you can see it was obviously a lot better with the dust extraction switched on. Some of this dust is obviously from the first cut, but overall not that bad actually. You get a bit of dust on the table here. I suspect with the guard cover and a T-piece on, it'd be even better, but not too bad. Anyway, down to well, let's talk about the blade. Right then, so when I had the original blade on it, I did do an initial cut when the machine first came to test the machine, and it was okay, but the cut was, you could see the saw blade marks, if you know what I mean. It was, I wouldn't say rough, but a little bit, the saw blade had left marks in it. And perfectly adequate if you were just knocking down some 3x2 to make a furring strip or what have you. But just, I suppose, that other cheap machine I got, the finish on that actually was almost perfect, so almost as if it had been planed almost. There weren't any saw marks at all. So initially, with the blade that was on it, I thought if I change to a Frood Pro blade, which is what I've done with all my gear, even if I've got a Matabo or a Bosch saw, I use the blade just to try the machine, and then if I'm happy with the machine, I go out and or I order a Frood blade, and 9 times out of 10, or 99% of the time, it really improves the cut and the finish. So that's what I thought. I thought the blade on this machine is a bit of a cheaper blade, and I'll get a new blade, and that will immediately solve the problem. However, I'll do this with my finger. I will go through a little bit of replacing the blade. Right, if I can get this cover up. So replacing the blade was fairly easy. There's actually like a washer with a hex on it, and the actual bolt that holds it on, and they give you 2 spanners, so you hold that one and move the other. So anyway, as I was changing the blade, I did notice a bit of wobble on the blade spindle or arbor, I suppose. And actually, it was worse than this, and I'll explain to you in a minute what I did. And I thought, and it was a little bit, and I sort of wobbled it even more. And actually, what I noticed was it wasn't just the blade wobbling. The whole, because the blade assembly slides up and down, it was the whole time. Not a lot, but enough to exaggerate the movement on the blade. And I started looking at it, I thought, well, these blades are not supposed to have any wobble at all, surely. And then actually, the stuff I could compare it to. So I went straight to the old table saw, the cheapo one I've had for about 20 odd years. And there was no wobble on the arbor or the blade at all on that. And that sort of threw me a little bit, and I thought, well, that's odd. So then the other 2 tools I could compare to was my Bosch 18-volt cordless circular saw, which is brand new, and I checked the blade wobble on that, and indeed that did have a little bit of blade wobble on the arbor, but this was still slightly more. And then I went to my Matabo Chop Saw, which has been used a fair bit but not overused, it's been looked after, and again that had a little bit of a wobble on the spindle arbor, and I thought, okay, so it looks as if a little bit of wobble is acceptable. But to me, okay, we got a bit, and we had this wobble on the whole assembly, a little bit of wobble. And I think the going back to the old table saw I got, different setup completely. That has like got a separate arbor with a spindle and a pulley, and it's driven off a poly V, a multi V belt. So a bit more of an opportunity there for the manufacturer to make it more robust and solid, if you like. These machines, these portable table saws, the Matabo Chop Saw, or it's in that box poking out there, the handheld circular saws, the mechanics, or basically the assemblies, are all the same. Motor with some gearing with a blade on it. So they're all of the similar design, if you know what I mean. So it looks as if a little bit of blade wobble was acceptable. Anyway, what I found was I was wobbling this, and where it slides up and down, I mean, I know people are going to say this stuff should be right out of the box, but you've got to bear the price in mind. You're not going to get the same precision. I don't know. You might get the same precision as a £400 machine. Anyway, so this is the saw body, which slides up and down in this slot, and there's a couple of round cast round pins in there. But what there's one little high spot, a bump on here, which is obviously designed to take up the clean. It's the bit that rubs, if you know what I mean. So they've it's a little circular support on it that determines the clearance between that and the body which it slides. It's pretty obvious. So what I did, and that was where I could feel this bit of play on here. And so what I've done, I had some 0.1mm brass shim. I thought, quick and dirty fix. I bent it over. There's about a 3mm tab that goes in, and I put it in the gap between the pip, bent it over, and used some good quality double-sided tape to stick it on. Quick and dirty fix. And the 0.1 went in there, slid in there, just nicely like a feeler gauge actually. And that took the play out of that. It still goes up and down. Exactly, doesn't feel any more friction than it did before. The play on this blade now, because before it was exaggerated because there was all this movement, the play on this blade, I would say, is better than my Matabo Chop Saw, which has got almost the same size blade on this, and slightly more than my Bosch circular saw, which has got a smaller blade, 165mm anyway. So I would say perfectly acceptable. And you can see the blade I put on. Oh, we can't see the model number now. It's on here. Well, it's an LP 30M with 30 teeth, and you see it's nicely lined up with the riving knife. There's no pinching. It's the right thickness blade. So then I gave it another run with the new blade with those little mods in place, with that little mod in place. It was only a 5-minute mod. I say quick and dirty mod just to prove concept. Later on down the road, whether there's something more substantial that you could do to fix it, but I don't think you'll need to. If that bit of brass wears out, or if you get one and the gap is slightly smaller, slightly bigger, you could put a thicker shim in. So you could always check it with a pair of feeler gauges, I suppose, and then get the shim accordingly. It doesn't have to be brass. I use brass because it's reasonably soft, because this is cast alloy of some sort, and you don't want to wear that out. And while we've got that off, you can see it's quite substantial, the casting and how it's attached. Okay, so that was, so I did a cut with the little mod in place, and I tell you what, it's fine. Let's go back the window, see if we can see a little bit. You can see a few little saw marks on the end there, but actually, I mean, this is it's pretty darn good. Because the other thing I found was as well, because obviously that blade, that whole thing was just floating a little bit, and it's only 0.1 out there, but what you was doing when you were looking down the wood, I say fine for just rough cut timber for furring strips or taking down a joist to the right size, but what you're finding, it was a slightly wavy edge. I say just I just wasn't quite happy with it, and I suppose a little bit just because it wasn't quite a nice cut smell. So anyway, that seems to have solved the issue. Well, I got the brass strip out. A couple of other things I did. The edge of this I thought was sitting slightly low, so another quick and dirty fix was super glued with some activator these little thin brass strips on there. I mean, this brass strip 0.1, you can cut it with a pair of scissors, and you can get it online easy enough. You wouldn't need too big a piece for that little bit down there, and I say decent double-sided tape. So yeah, so now this is still a little bit below, which it should be, but it's a lot better than it was, and it was fine at the back anyway. I mean, perhaps a future mod with this to adjusting screws, but you know, I'm not doing stuff to require that sort of adjustment. Anyhow, so a couple of other things, because I've actually used it now. I like this, really works well. The guide works well, it clamps well, it seems to cut square, okay, and parallel. Okay, so yeah, cuts fine, new blade cuts fine. I actually did some, I've got a bit of, the one reason I changed these blades, they're quite a good ripping blade, but they're a bit of a good all-rounder for chipboard and MDF, plywood, anything like that, sterling board. So you usually find those other blades that come with the machine are really just I suppose general purpose blade, but I find they tend not to be so good on plywoods and stuff like that. So a couple of other things. I test it with I test it. I tell you what, it's loud, and you know when sometimes you use a bit of equipment. I know you should really wear ear defenders all the time, but you use sometimes you get your SDS or your Kango out, or I mean, you think, oh, I really should be wearing my ear defenders. This machine is, when you put it on, you go, I wish I got my ear defenders on. It is really that loud. And I'm not saying it's any louder than any other of the machines. And actually, I should say about this spindle wobble and the rest of it, it might not be any worse than a Bosch or DeWalt. I've just not seen them. It might not be worse than anything else. It was just my original machine. I got no wobble on that at all. But it is probably just its belt driven, and I don't think there's many machines, they don't tend to build them like that now. So yes, it's very loud. You switch it on, you go, oh, I've left my air defenders downstairs, but you do wish you had them. I might even get a pair of ear defenders and keep them with the machine. So I measured the sound pressure just with a dB meter on the phone, and it's 93 decibels. And I measured my old machine, so both about a meter away, which I think is the standard, and that was around 93 decibels. I think it's just the pitch of the noise of the motor and gearbox on this. It just goes straight through your head. Yeah, no louder than the old one, but the old one seems a lot quieter. So yeah, there's that. What else? Yeah, the dust extraction is fine. The Henry Hoover with the I've had to use one of those universal rubber adapters in the back there, so I'll probably set up something, 3D print something, or see if there's any standard plumbing fittings that'll fit that. So yeah, the guide works fine. You have to just work out which scale you need to use. And I just double check by measuring back to the blade anyway. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I've forgotten, but no. Yeah, when I found that bit of wobble in here and in that, I thought I was really on the cusp of right, I might have made a bit of a mistake here. Perhaps I should have gone for a £330 GTS 216, the Bosch one. But that is a little bit of the thing. I find a lot of this import stroke Chinese, no brand made equipment. Sometimes you can, with half an hour messing around with it, you can make them into a really, really good machine. And I said that was just a 5-minute job putting that shim in. If it doesn't work, I might have to think about something else. And there's quite a few options of how you could take that play out. But say it was about 0.1 of a millimeter, and it was just enough for the blow, enough with, I suppose, there's that little bit of play, which they all my other equipment seems to have on the arbor. But I suspect that 0.1 was just allowing it just to move a little bit and leave score marks in the wood. But now it seems fine. Anyway, that's it. That's what I promised. I said I would do a video of it cutting. So still quite impressed with it. Just a few little things. I've got on my larger workmate with the bottom legs folded down, and I suspect, looking at it, it would fit the normal type of workmate. This is the, I don't know what model it is, the one you can adjust the slots there, and yeah, it's pretty solid. With the legs dropped down, I would say almost a perfect height to work on. And that was the other thing. You know, people might think, well, oh, the Bosch have the dedicated stands. To me, the stand is just another bit of stuff you've got to put away and that's knocking around, or you've got to hang it up for fine storage, and you are paying for it. I know there's some good deals with the Bosch one with the stand, but some reports it looks a bit flimsy anyway, to be quite honest. And if you can utilise something else, even better. And actually, even with this, if you really, really wanted to, you could design some, if you're doing bigger stuff, some clamps to hold it down on the workmate. But I say it's pretty solid, to be quite honest, and an ideal height. So if you've got a workmate, you don't need to buy a table saw stand. So one less thing to store away, which is always good in my books. Anyway, I can't think of else. It's the Frood. I'll show you the packet. These Frood Pro blades. I've had a lot. That's the old blade in the packet. I've had a lot of luck with the Frood blades. Out of interest, I thought it's got a 210mm blade in, and you can also get a 216. And I thought, I wonder if you can get a 216 blade in, because that would be the same as my chop saw. Here we are. It's an LP30M. And it says here, does softwood, hardwood, chipboard, plywood. Okay, it doesn't say MDF, but it will do MDF. There's a little chart on there with smiley faces, what it's happy to do. Okay, so it's obviously happier cutting softwood. I like the smiley faces at the bottom. Bit 80s those, aren't they? So anyway, I've always been happy with the Frood Pro blades, and they're a good blade for a good price. I think this one was about no more than 20 quid. I think it was about £18.75 delivered, 30 teeth. Recommend getting that. There's a couple of other good blade manufacturers around, but it's just I've always used these, and if you don't have a problem, why change? And if the price is okay. Oh yeah, back to the 216 blade. No, I don't think there's enough clearance on the body. Clearance up here, but on the actual casting, the machine that holds the motor and stuff, you might just about get it in, but it looks a bit close to me, because you've got to find another 4mm per side clearance, and I don't think you can do it, and there must be a reason why they put the 210 on it. Anyway, that's all for now, so I hope that helps. A bit more substantial than my first look round video, but hopefully that'll perhaps guide you if you're looking for this sort of thing. See you later.